God says, I want to destroy all the other gods. Is he able to do that? Then he's not all-powerful. By definition, God has to be all-powerful. So if you have a God who can't destroy another God, he's not God. That's why polytheism, or belief in many gods, is not rational, it's not reasonable, it's not intellectual. The only belief that makes sense to us here and here is one absolute God. That is the belief your heart and your mind will accept, because there is no contradiction in that. Any belief which says, oh, there's many gods, we can disregard that to be false, because that is not the reality. The reality is, how many gods are in control? We can see it. If there were many gods in control, the universe will collapse and be ruined. But look at how precisely the sun is orbiting, the earth is orbiting, whole universe is following a particular law, the natural law that has been within this universe. How the water defies gravity because of this capillary section and goes up the root of the tree to the... All laws regulated, put forth by a designer, one controller. The universe demonstrates there is one God.
Yes, but in any case, you cannot tell people who believe in Christianity or who believe in Islam or something else like.
But do you agree? Alina or Alina, did you say her name?
I think your point is right, but I don't believe some part of your speech when you told people who believe in different gods, they are stupid because...
I didn't say stupid.
Right. No.
I said the belief, okay, ask, is it Alina or Alina?
Alina.
Alina, if I say this camera is God, this camera created this universe, you have all the right to ask me. I mean, why?
But you're independent.
No. You're not going to say oh, I'm crazy and stupid. You can ask me. If you know that I'm quite sensible, you can say, why do you believe that? If I am not able to give you any valid reasons, you would say, how can you believe in a man-made camera and say this is the camera that made the universe? You would say it's not believable. It's not reasonable to believe. So that belief, so would my belief be true though, that this camera made the universe?
Yes, but
it cannot be true.
It cannot be true, but for you,
not for me.
For you, it's true.
Not for me. Not for me. This is not about subjective belief. I can believe in anything. In reality, this camera did not make this universe. Yeah. So one can believe that this camera made this universe, but it doesn't make
proof that Jesus created.
We will go by one, but at least objectively, in reality, we can demonstrate that this camera did not make this universe. There might be people who believe in that. There might be people who believe in many gods, but in reality, that is not objectively verifiable. In fact, we can demonstrate otherwise. We are not saying these people are fools. We are saying these people don't believe in the truth. This is just a belief. They believe by blindly or without critical thinking. So when it comes to believing God having sons or daughters, again, same kind of emotional attachment. Not reasonable belief from the mind and the heart, but it's all about attachment to what your forefathers believe, what your church tells you, and so on. So if I come to you and tell you, you know what, God has a mother and a sister, you'll be wondering, what does it even mean? God has a mother and a sister. But if people believe in it, say, I believe in it because a book says so.
But religion, it doesn't something that you can prove, the real proof.
Yes.
You cannot prove
We can. That is what the secularism, atheism, the people who follow that, they want to put forward this narrative that you cannot prove the existence of God. You cannot prove the validity of a religion. That narrative comes from the secular, atheistic worldview. What we do in Speaker's Corner, if you watch our videos, you will see we precisely dismantle this claim with the atheist. I have discussed with so many atheists, so many other people have, dismantling this claim that no, we can establish that there is a creator who is one, an absolute, who is in control, who created all of this. It's establishable. So when we
believe in such a thing, but I have my own religion. I don't need to go to church or something like this. When I feel bad, I can sit alone in a silent room and just talk to him how I can.
But Alina, when we say we have our own religion, it is, I think, useful to sometimes think, am I on the right religion? Because I may be following the wrong religion. Like many people who worships a camera and say this is God, or worships a tree. Do you know many Hindus? They were recently worshipping, what is it? It's a bicycle stand or something, I don't know. They worship trees and snakes, and they represent them as idols of God, representation. So we know many people worship the creation. We need to ask, did they ask them? They need to ask, are they on the right religion? So you can say, look, I have a religion, my father, my mother believed in it, but was that the right religion though? We have to ask, because now we come to an age where we are together interacting with different religious faith and belief systems. Because we are exchanging information from our respective faith and ideologies, we need to be aware of it and say, actually, am I believing the right thing? Because you'll be surprised. I'm a Muslim. In the Quran, the God who revealed this Quran reprimands, takes people to task, those who say, I'm going to stick to my forefathers' belief. For instance, what if they were wrong? So don't just believe in what your parents believed and parents tell you. What if they were wrong? Are you going to stick on believing in it? So Quran reprimands. Quran wants us to use our brains, our critical thinking.
Can you ask you one question? Like, you're a Muslim, okay? So why Allah brings a war to Ukraine? Why it happens? Why wars happens?
Wars happens. Okay. So Allah has created mankind and given them the laws to live by. These laws are beneficial for human societies to live as a society, as a community. Because individually, do you need any law? If you're all by yourself in a jungle, there's nothing else. You don't need any law. Law for who? Who are you interacting with? But when there's someone else, you need to know how you behave, how you talk. Do you steal from them? Or do you say a word which is true? Or do you deceive them? Laws are necessary when we are in a community. Of course, when you're alone, you don't need laws. But if you think about it, in a community, it's more necessary to have laws so that we can live in prosperity, we can live in tranquility, we can live in happiness, and no problem suffering. No one's going to come and kill me, steal from me, insult me, mock me, take my job or whatever, might destroy my house, bulldoze my house, take my land. We need laws. So when God gives these laws, He does that out of His mercy, so that I don't have to go and trial and see which one's better. God gives us this for granted and says, live accordingly. Do not cheat. Do not lie. Do not bring false witness. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill unjustly, and so on. All of this are values which everyone can aspire to and say, oh, this is a good thing. But what happens is, some people don't want to believe in the laws of God because they have their ego and their desires and other things are influenced by. For example, they see a nice car, they say, okay, now I'm going to steal it because I don't have one. Then they take the right away of someone else. Now imagine you have a country and they see another country. They come in, occupy the country and take its resources and enslave the people because of greed. This happened. Did it happen? America went to Iraq. Is it because they had mass destruction weapon? There were no weapons. There was no evidence for it. But they went there, looted the country, destroyed their culture and the civilization, and look at what they have done. This is all about greed, political greed, because Iraq had oil and gas. Would they do that to England? They wouldn't do that to England. Yeah? So wars happen because people are greedy and they want to usurp and they want to take the rights of others and so on. So sometimes war can be because of this. But God gives us rules and regulations how to conduct if this happens. But if you're going to fight, fight for justice. Don't go and fight for greed. So I'm going to fight and then take their land. No. In Islam, we have a concept of jihad, which is opening up another land so that people can see the justice of Islam. Not to oppress the people, but to remove oppression, to establish justice. That is why this will be the only one example in the history of mankind. When the Muslim armies went and they opened up another country, the people who were conquered, they joined the army to the next round to another country. Everywhere else, when Alexander the Great came and took over the land, when he left, they were saying, oh, thank God they're gone. They didn't join them because they were now saying, oh, now they're gone, right? They didn't join and say, let me open up. In Islam, this happened because they knew that this is for the truth and not about greed or about desires. This is establishing justice on earth. Islam, if I want to tell you one word, is about justice. Maintaining justice between your own self, between your spouse, between man and woman, between the societies. The Quran says, be a firm witness, even if it goes against you and your kith and kin, your relatives. No favoritism. The Prophet Muhammad.
I don't understand, because if someone wants to kill your relative or something else, you need to fight.
No, stand firm in justice. When you're going to be a witness, speak the truth. Don't just, just imagine, your brother killed someone. The judge asks you for witness. You're going to say, you're going to lie?
No, it depends on the reason why he killed
No.
people.
He killed it because he didn't like the other guy.
So I will tell the truth.
Right. Islam says otherwise. Establish justice. In fact, you'll be surprised how the degree of this message is put forward. Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our prophet of God, he said, even my daughter Fatima, if she were to steal, what would you do? Cut her hands off. Even if the daughter of the Prophet did that, she's not going to be spared. Of course, he would not do that, but Prophet is teaching us a lesson. Even if it was her, how close can anyone be than the daughter of the Prophet? He says, no. No favoritism. Nothing where you actually demonstrate that you are going to commit injustice to society. So justice demands that everyone has the share of justice without being violated their rights and so on. So in an Islamic society, we have the rights of a non-Muslim citizen, and their rights are protected by the state. In other countries, go to Palestine, occupied Palestine. Do they have any rights? Their land's been taken away, their lives been taken away. International community doesn't give a damn. Do you know why? Why did the international community become so silent when Israel commits all these atrocities, for example? If Palestinians commit atrocities, we will be the first one to say, wrong. You cannot commit atrocities to another human being, even if it be against the Israelis. But when Israelis commit all this aggression and atrocities, the whole world is silent. So this is something that we need to really open up to and say, why is this happening? Why have they made this rule called anti-Semitism law? That you can't talk anything against it, you'll be put behind bar, you will be punished. Look at how they've done it. They even made it illegal. But Arabs are Semite people too. When an Arab is insulted, does anyone take them to court? They say, no, you have to be a Jew. So that's how society has somehow been in the hands of certain people. The rich of this world is in the hands of certain people. Islam says, no, you cannot let people die in starvation and hunger. They have a right in your wealth. Your neighbor has a right over you. A believer, it's not like this. The Prophet ﷺ said, you are not a believer. You are not a believer. You are not a believer if you go fully fed and your neighbor starves in hunger. You're not even a believer. This is how much right. In fact, the companions of the Prophet were asking, how much do they want me? They were even thinking
Yes,
like...
but if your neighbor, like a very bad person who killed someone, why you will feed him or something like this, you know?
We're not talking about the exceptionally bad people. We're talking about a neighbor of a Muslim who's not a Muslim, could be a Jew, Christian, atheist, whoever. The companions of the Prophet were even thinking, are they going to even inherit from you? That is the level of how Islam is giving right to the people. We have a concept called zakah. 2.5% of our surplus wealth will be given to the poor and the needy. It's their right on our wealth. The more you have, the more you're going to give. When Islam was implemented, you'll be surprised. But one of the Khalif, Umar bin Abdul Aziz, if I'm not mistaken, he was trying to find someone to give zakat to. Someone poor that he can give this zakat to. He was struggling to find someone because people were the wealth was distributed in such a way, justice was implemented in such a way, the economic system was implemented in such a way that people were not left poor and to die as poor. That is what Islam makes the society function. So when at one point 100 years ago, a few decades ago, in Saudi Arabia, people would cover their merchandise, how valuable they are, how expensive they are. When the call of prayer came, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, time to pray. They would leave and go to the masjid, go to the mosque. There is no video cameras, there is no security guards. It's not a locked thing. What made them have that confidence and trust? Because people were educated that they are not going to steal. Islam has methods and mechanisms of ensuring that crimes doesn't happen. If it does happen, it has mechanisms to stop that. That is why when Islam gives certain penalties, it gives grievous penalties in comparison to the degree of the crime. I'll give you an example. If England tomorrow said the penalty for killing someone is £10, 10 British pounds, do you think the killing will remain the same, decrease or increase?
No, I think increase.
Increase? I got £50, I'll get away with 5 murder. That's what people will think. It will not stop. But if I said, if you kill someone, your life will be taken in return,
Nobody will kill.
people will think twice. It will act as a deterrent. That's why in Islam, the punishment system of certain crimes are harmful, which goes against your reason, crime against your reason, your dignity and honor, your life, your wealth, your property, and so on. Only those crimes, so that the society can function peacefully. That is why when people look at the Sharia, the Islamic law, sometimes they don't think, why is it so harsh? The reason it's harsh is to protect you from those people who want to take away your rights. So when we talk about, okay, why no other religions? We believe because there's one God, there's always been one religion. God did not send different religions to different people. And one thing you'll be surprised to hear, God said He does not punish a nation until He sends a messenger. Sounds just to me? Because how can you punish a nation when they didn't even know what to do? But God said He has sent all nations had a prophet and a messenger. That means all the previous prophets and messengers that came, they came with the same message. The Quran says so. They all came with the same message: worship God, one and only, and avoid worshipping the false gods. Whether it be creation, whether you ascribe a partner to God or whatever. That was the message. So what happened then? Why do we have so many different religions? It's because whenever the prophet was there, they were following the religion of God, which is Islam, meaning sincere and willing submission to the will of God. And the one who did this is called a Muslim. So when Abraham came, the prophet, you know about Abraham? When he came, he sincerely and willingly worshipped one true God and followed the will of one true God. So in Arabic we would say, this is a Muslim, and when he asked people to believe in that, so that he's brought Islam to the people. So this is what happened, but as time went by, people tried to come away from this message. Yeah? And that is why the religious messages from the same one God gets changed and corrupted. And that's why we see differences today in various religions.
But in Christianity, it's also one person, and
they made Jesus God?
No, they didn't make Jesus like a God. They made Jesus like a, overview of the God. They look at Him.
In Speaker's Corner, Alina, you will see many people say, if you ask who is Jesus, and you know what they will tell you? He's God. They made Jesus God along with God. So the Quran says this is a mistake.
No, but I don't want to say any religion is a mistake. People believe in it and they are independent. They can choose in what belief,
Even if it's to their detriment, even if it's to their bad consequence. If you see, okay, Alina,
every religion send a message that be good, don't steal, don't kill someone. Every religion tell you that you need to be a good person,
Yeah, but that's the commonality. But the other things about religion, it says you have to believe that God died for you.
You don't have to believe. You need to choose in what belief.
Yeah, but there are certain things.
You can choose Islam, you can choose Christianity, you can choose.
But is God happy with that? approach.
If you will be a good person, Allah will also praise you. Like, if you will be a good person.
So imagine you don't like football. You don't like football.
No, I don't like
And someone gives you a smelly boot. They should know what you like or not. So if you want to worship God, would you worship God the way you like or the way God appreciates and God is happy with?
It's complicated question.
No, it's simple. Alina, you should worship the God the way God accepts, not what you think. There are many people who eat their own feces and excrements, showing that this is a form of worship of God. God doesn't approve of that.
So
God would not approve of that.
No, in any case, when we will die, we will see what happens.
Yes.
In any case, that's why
In
you
any
need
case-
to just be a good person, make good things, and think about you and people around you, like
Yeah.
to bring
But
them.
Alina, the idea that it's okay if your husband following good or not, you have to follow God's rule, His regulations, completely, not partially. Where is the rule of God now, today? Who has that rule and regulation and teaching which is not corrupted? Because you might find in the day of judgment that this rule that you are following is a corruption of the rule that God sent. Because man changed it. Man changed the rule and say, you can give interest. Like if I want to borrow some money, £1,000, and he said, I'll give me £2,000 back with interest. What if God tells you that I never make this rule because it's unjust? Exploitation, greed. And you followed that rule, he says, okay. That is the problem. We have to know what is the teaching of God now. And that's what we're saying is the Quran says it is the final book from God with the final message through the final messenger. All we have to do is scrutinize this message, the messenger, the book, and then accept it. And then you will be confident in what you are doing in terms of worship of God. Because then you will have tranquility. Because otherwise, you don't even know, oh, what I'm following, this book that I'm following, the book by Harry Potter, is it indeed from God or not? Tranquility in the heart comes from certainty of knowledge. When you know the Quran is from God, certainly, there are objective reasons why one can believe that the Quran is from God. Not just because the Quran says so, but objectively. Because sometimes you want to know evidence that this is the case. Listen, a judge in a court of law needs to see evidence for a murder. He can't just simply say, I had a dream yesterday and I think you are guilty. He can't do that. He has to establish evidence that this man was the guilty. He's the criminal. He has seen video footages or he's seen the crime scene and he's the evidence of his fingerprints, the knife, whatever. Likewise, whatever we're going to believe, it's not just because, oh, it says some good things about it. What evidence does it have to make sure it's from God? Does that make sense? That's what the Quran does. The Quran gives you those evidences.
Yes, but if you will like born in any country with another religion, you will believe this religion.
Internet is available. Information is available.
Yes.
Your friends are
Now,
available.
yes, but in previous times, no.
In previous times, do you know what happens? In the previous times, if anyone did not hear about the true message of Islam, of God, God's not going to punish them just like that. God is going to ask them, did they use their intellect? This is in one of the chapters of the Quran, Surah Al-Mulk. God says,
Yes, so
did
now
they
we
not
have
use their aql, their intellect?
Yes, because of the internet and like globalization, we have a lot of information now, and we can choose in what belief. Like.
Yeah.
So,
But even in the past, people, if they didn't have that information, God will account them by taking into account, did they use the intellect that God provided? If you and I use our intellect correctly, we would not worship a bicycle or a tripod or a camera or a tree or the sun or the planet. We will say there is a creator of all of that. We'll worship that creator. So those people, if they didn't hear anything about Islam, anything about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and if they use their mind properly and worship one God, and they said, whoever you are the creator, they are the ones who are successful. God is not going to be unjust to them in his judgment. Even those people who didn't see anything about this is how the judgment will be done. So today we are in a situation where we have that availability of information. We cannot be excused for not knowing it or not thinking and critically analyzing it. So Alina, as you now have heard something about Islam, you should now take it one step further. Okay. Does that make sense? Is it true? Because if it's
I
going
feel respect to this religion and for every religion. For me, I cannot put one of the top and one.
But every religion cannot be the true at the same time because they contradict each other.
Yes, that's it. That's why I have my own religion. I don't believe in any religion.
Yeah.
I believe in one creator, and I am taking care about myself. I know that I will not steal something. I will not harm someone, and I know how to be a good person, and I try to follow my own rules.
Your rules, you said so. Your own rules. How about following God's rules? Has God given you the rules to live your life by?
Yes, if I
Where are those rules?
something, I have my own rules.
That's the problem. We cannot use our own rules and think that God will be happy with our own
But
rules.
if God bring me such a thoughts, I think this is also reason.
No, God has given you the critical thinking and say, look, if you use your own rules, there are many people who use their own rules and they will be contradictory, believe in contradictions.
Yes, but I'm still a good person.
What?
I'm still
Who defines what is good or bad? Who defines what is good or bad? For example, to give you an example,
I don't want to do something bad. And
would you follow the rules of, say, example, how do you have a marriage life? Do you have relationship before marriage or after marriage? Do you see those things? You might feel that it's okay if I sleep with someone, but is God happy with that rule?
Yes, and in every religion it doesn't.
No, is God happy with that rule? Because there are people who think in their own rules and I'm going to sleep with my partner first before I get married because I don't know how my partner is. Many people do that. So if people take their own rules like this, they're not going to arrive at the truth. That's what the point I'm making. I cannot, because you have to go.
Islam means sleep with other girls.
Wrong. They will be accountable for what they're doing. That is why, if you read the Quran, you can be certain that this is from God. And that certainty will make you and liberate you from all this confusion in this world. So I can only request you to open up the Quran and really verify it. Try to falsify it and see if it's from God or not. If you cannot falsify it and it's something that you have to submit to it's from God, then accept it wholeheartedly, follow its rule, because that will give you the success of this life and in the hereafter. What is true success? Success in this life or the success in the hereafter?
I think success should be here and after.
Exactly. The hereafter is the ultimate success. Because this life is what? 60, 70, 80, 120 years to the most. But the hereafter, second life, is forever and forever. There will be no death. Either you live a life in hellfire being punished, burnt, tortured, or you live in a life of tranquility, happiness, joy, bliss, felicity. You have to make that choice.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Thank you for conversation, but I have to go now.
I know. It's okay. Nice talking to you, Alina. All the best. But do consider what I have said and study and examine the Quran, the life of Prophet Muhammad and so on.
I will use my brain. Yes,
Good.
will.
Thank you. Take care. Take what you need. Can you take them all and then distribute to whoever belongs to this? Yeah.
Yes.
Because
You are free to go.